Last week we were discussing about putting an end to the negative emotions. Okay. And where we left that is we talked about a car with the wheels jammed, and we talked about releasing the brake. So let's look at that. So we are at part 7 of the power of personal achievement, based on our training with Brian Tracy. So we'll just recap 2 slides of last week. We said that first step is to stop the blame game, and the way to stop the blame game is using I am responsible. Okay. Changing your entire conversation to as if the problem is outside us to you're saying that I am responsible, and being responsible is not blaming yourself, as we discussed it. Responsible is looking into the future, etc. But what will happen is that we may initially find it difficult because we are so much in love with our negativity that we don't want to give it up. That is one thing. But you may even say that, look, I'm okay with everything else that I'm giving up, but this one thing, except for this one thing, which I'm not willing to give up, that one negative emotion or incident, which we will not let go. That will cause us to stay in the same place forever. If you recollect, we said that the example we took is of there is a Mercedes Benz car, right? And this fantastic car, which has got this fantastic power, has got one front wheel locked. Okay, by mistake, they just locked it up. So with this one front wheel locked, if all the other wheels are running in full throttle, you will just keep going in circles. So now we are going to look at how to unlock this brake. Okay, so be with me. See, the point is this, that if it was so easy to release the brakes, then everybody should have been happy and joyous, and everybody would have been thin and rich and popular. But the fact is that these brakes are holding us back. Just this brakes lockdown is holding us back, and this brakes lockdown is at the psychological level and also at the emotional level. So we need to look at this and then look at specific steps about how to unlock it. Remember that the moment these brakes are unlocked, you can fly. So if we try to look back, again, we are going back to the similar things that we discussed a few weeks ago. It all started in our childhood at 2 levels. One is with destructive criticism. Now, this destructive criticism that we may have had in childhood in different forms, it is more than a painful lash. It is like it's more painful than a lash, more than a physical hurt. It is more painful than that. The comparison is to a neutron bomb. How a neutron bomb is designed is that it kills all the inhabitants, okay, but it leaves all the property intact. So this is like that. From inside, the emotions are all destroyed, but the physical person externally is intact. So this destructive criticism can be like that neutron bomb. And it leads, for the person, it leads to a feeling of failure and a feeling of inadequacy. Just on a side note, there is this interesting thing about this Jack Welch, who was the CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001. He got this infamous name of Neutron Jack because he really laid off a very large number of employees in General Electric. With all the rest of the infrastructure intact, he just laid off employees. So, people started calling him Neutron Jack. That's just on the side note. So remember that this destructive criticism is like this. It's like inwardly, it kind of beats you up. Externally, things are same, fine. So now, see, why this destructive criticism is so potent is because it is, as a child, we are listening to it from a person whom we look at like it's called, like Brian Tracy calls him a PP. That is a prestigious person. We will look at what is this prestigious person. And the kind of things that they are said, and they may be said, maybe seriously, may not be seriously. You are no good. You are not so smart. You are messy. You will not amount to anything. Things like that. And the sad part is that from a child's point of view, the child, because it is being said by this prestigious person, the child takes it as a true representation of reality. Okay. And that is because the child does not have that ability to discriminate. So, because it is taken as a true representation of reality by the child, it straight goes into the subconscious of the child and gets locked as almost like semi-permanent data. It just gets locked in. And thereafter, the child starts operating based on that statement of that prestigious person. Now, remember that this prestigious person can be anybody that the child sees as an authority. It can be a parent, a sibling, an older relative, a teacher. It could be just about any other adult, anybody whom the child sees as an authority. This information is taken in and just accepted. Maybe it can be the doctor, anybody. That is one thing. One is destructive criticism. The second aspect, which is causing, all this breaks getting locked, is lack of love. Now, there is a one-to-one relationship between the amount of love that is received as a child, both in terms of quality and quantity, and a healthy personality. Okay. Unfortunately, many parents, they make this mistake. They say, all parents, you ask them, they will say, I really love my child. But unfortunately, many parents don't have any time to spend with their children. Effectively, they are, treating them like domestic pets. It's like you have this pet at home. So you will just come by, you will just, scratch behind the ear, tap it, have a few words with it, and then get on with your life. This is the way we are actually treating our children. Okay. We really don't spend any time with them. Little one-to-one time is spent with the children. And, today the increasing trend is even for mothers. They are working and they are very keen to get back to work. So the next step is to leave the child in daycare. So now this lack of love, the child internalizes this. Okay, that they are not spending time and they don't care. The child will be wanting to share so many things with the parent, but there is nobody to listen. Okay, so that just the fact that the parents don't spend time with me because I am no good, I am fundamentally flawed. They grow up with all these notions which are not real, but from the child's point of view, the child takes it to be true. Okay, and then they grow up into problem teens and adults. Many of these problems we see today of anger, attention seeking, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, etc. Today that we are seeing, even as adults, we are seeing this, is all, it goes back to things that were unfulfilled, things that as parents have not done it for whatever reasons. So now remember this. This is very, very important for us to really understand and internalize for ourselves, at least, is that no child asks to be born. Okay. But once a child is born, the child should be in the company of someone who is just crazy about them for the first 3 to 5 years. This is what is required. And this is unfortunately missing. And that is in turn leading to so many problems that we are facing today as adults. Now, for a child to feel fully loved, Brian Tracy says there are 3 conditions, 3 criteria are there. One is that parents must love themselves first. Okay, what kind of parents or what kind of people are we that the children are seeing us as? Are we, are they seeing us, as angry, depressed people, into alcohol and into, all kinds of negative behavior that so many times parents have? If you think of, children who are in very disturbed families, right? Parents loving themselves first. How do the parents treat themselves? Second, do the parents love each other? Okay. Children learn about love by seeing it in their environment, and the immediate environment that they see it in is their parents. So, is there that caring and that love that the children see in parents, which is what they will internalize? Okay. And last is, of course, the parents must love their child. There is only one and only way to do this, which is to spend enormous amount of time with the child. Okay. And we are not talking of just spending time. We are talking of high quality time. Now, there is an interesting angle to this high quality time. Let's look at it. So, this is true for not just the relationship with the child, it is true for any relationship. Any relationship will grow in value only to the degree to which we are willing to invest more time into it. Okay. It's like, whether it's a business relationship, whether it's a customer, co-worker, member of the opposite sex, whether you're talking for spouse or a child, any relationship, including if you look at the time that we are spending together, the conversations that we have in our, in our Indus Viva project that we are into, the time that we give to each other is the extent to which this relationship will grow. So therefore, you have to make it a priority to spend more time. There is no other way. Okay. Now, when we look at high quality time is a function of the quantity of time. Whether you like it or don't like it, quality moments come only occasionally and they come unexpectedly. It will come completely as a surprise, unanticipated, unbidden, it will come. Okay. Now, they are just moments. This quality time that we talk about are just moments, very short moments of time. And these moments can never happen unless there is, lot of overall, you are spending a large amount of time. Suddenly in the middle, these moments will come up. And these are the moments that we will remember for our lifetime. So this frequency can only and only be increased if the overall quantity of time is increased, which is why it's very important to spend a more quantity of time if we want to grow the relationship. So one of the very interesting things that Brian Tracy spoke about is that when you're traveling, many of us have this, when we're traveling with somebody else, the tendency is to switch on some music and have some music running and all that. So he says, at least in his personal life, as a practice, he never has music on, because the moment you have music on, all conversation ceases. And by not having the music on, you have the opportunity to talk. So there is a very nice story that he quoted about somebody whom he knew, a friend of his, in this particular context of driving together and his discovery. So what happened was that this person, he's like a typical person who's busy in his whole life and fully busy with his job and everything else. And his daughter, she wants to go skiing. And it so happened that she was supposed to take a bus to take her to a destination, and she missed that bus. So because there was no choice, he ended up driving his daughter to the skiing place, which was like 5 hours away. Now, because it was all mountains, the radio signal was poor, and therefore they did not switch on the radio. And just because of that, he ended up talking to his daughter for 5 hours during that car journey. And he was simply shocked to discover that he always thought that he's a fantastic parent and he knows his children very well. And he was completely shocked to discover that the kind of things the daughter shared during that 5 hours, he didn't even know all these aspects about his daughter. So from that moment onwards, his life completely turned around. And of course, for every time his daughter wanted to go skiing, he made sure that he took the time out to drive her down. Okay. But that's the point that we are making, that unless we are willing to give that large quantity of time, this quality moments will never come. And we keep thinking that we know, whether it is spouse, children, parents, whoever, we think we know them, but we will discover that we don't know them at all. So there is this interesting study which was done with 50 parents, and what they were asked is, what is their greatest regret with regards to their growing children? And interestingly, the results was that 49 out of 50 said this. They said, we wish we had spent more time with our children when they were younger. And this is a very, very sad thing to say. If you miss that time is never going to come back. And so it's like, this is the wisdom in retrospect, but this wisdom in retrospect, you can't do much about. But we can learn from the other people's mistakes, and we need not make the same mistakes again. So now coming back to releasing the brakes, we spoke about, the two things. One is destructive criticism, and the other thing is lack of love. Now, what Brian Tracy says is that if any one of these are true, which is parents do not love themselves, or parents do not love each other, or parents do not love the child. If any one of this is true, and this is coupled with destructive criticism, the end result is that the child grows up with a sense of guilt. Okay, please understand this clearly. If any one of these, that is, parents do not love themselves, or parents do not love each other, or parents do not love the child, any one is true, and there is destructive criticism that is going along with it, the child grows up with a sense of guilt. And the feeling is, when you say guilt, the feeling is that I am not very worth much. You know, that not worth much means I am worthless. This is how it ends up as. So that sense of guilt ends up as I am worthless. And remember that this sense of guilt is the biggest phenomenon that is plaguing our society. You just think of it. You can look at our own lives and we can look back and see, like, at various areas of our life, where is this sense of guilt that we are carrying? And the interesting thing is, there's observation among AIDS victims is that a typical emotion that was noted among AIDS victims is a sense of worthlessness. And that sense of worthlessness was leading them into reckless and promiscuous behavior. Now, this sense of guilt may also get experienced as self-hatred or self-doubt. That is, they start hating themselves, or they start completely doubting themselves. So just look at what guilt leads to. See, guilt is like it's a low-grade epidemic infection, no, that is just scattered all over the place. It's like it's just festering. It's all over the place, and it just follows us everywhere. And this feeling of guilt and worthlessness is expressed in an attitude that I am not good enough. You just look at how many areas of your life you feel and you keep telling yourself, I am not good enough for this, I am not good enough for that. Just look at it. Okay. This is the single greatest problem we face as adults. And the corollary to that is, suppose you do succeed. Okay. You feel at the end of it that this success is not genuine. This is what they call an imposter syndrome. You feel that, I don't deserve this. Because I'm not good enough, this can't be true. And in other words, that also makes you feel that, it's not going to last. This success is not going to last. It will be taken away from me. You have these kind of feelings. You have the feeling that I do not deserve it. Okay. Now, see, the sad part is that this whole thing that we kind of get it from things that our parents did, and we carry it forward to our children. It just passes on our generation. So guilt is one of the things that very, very frequently parents use on children. So there is this whole negative religion thing. I mean, this is a very strong thing that is happening at the religious space. Particularly, I have noted it with, I think, some of the evangelical thing. With the Christian thing, I have noted this. I will tell you one particular story related to this. So, the whole attitude is that you make children feel guilty before the age of 6 or 7, otherwise you will not get them. Okay, if you want to get them into your control, no, you have to make them feel guilty at a very young age. Now, this kind of thing, Brian Tracy himself quotes an evangelist who is working in Mexico, where his way to get through to the community who is not willing to listen to the whole preaching thing is to make them feel guilty. Make them feel that they are sinners, that they are bad, etc. I came across a similar story in the context of evangelism, again in South America, in the rainforest, that is in Brazil or someplace, where there was a researcher who was working with one particular tribe who was living at the edge of a rainforest. This particular story I'm telling you, I read it in this book called In the Rainforest. It's a phenomenal book. It's like what a rainforest is. The magnanimity, the magnitude, the awesomeness of it, I came across in that book. So there is a particular researcher who's working with this particular tribe, and what the researcher is trying to do is to document the songs of that tribe. What is that traditional? They have a certain culture of singing and all that. So the researcher is documenting it. So after the end of one set of documentation, the researcher goes back, and then after 1 year, she comes back to the same community, And after she comes back, she wants to restart the conversation with them. And to restart it, she just plays back the songs of those tribe only. Whatever she has recorded, she plays it back to them and says that, okay, let's start the conversation from here. Now, this time when they are listening to the songs, they just jump back in horror and they're shutting their ears and running away. So she was completely taken aback. Like, what is this new behavior? Why is this happening? So when she probed, she found out that there is one particular, somebody who's as a preacher, somebody has come and they are staying in one farm which is nearby. And the methodology that they have applied is the same thing, that they have made this tribe believe that this tribe is responsible for the death of the Christ. Okay. And the only way they can atone is by completely giving up their entire culture, their songs and everything. So this is the outcome of that. So this kind of thing is happening at adult level with tribes and all that. That is a different story. But the point is that there is a tendency to use this with children just to get control over children. Okay. The other thing that we do is punishment and control. This guilt is used as a mechanism for punishment and control. Like you keep, we may recollect that we have ourselves told our children these things. How could you dare to do this? I hope this is like if something the child has not done, I hope you would do this. Or, even as adults, there are these things I know for sure, like my parents have done this to me. My father used to keep telling me that I was expecting you will call, you did not call and all that, right? This whole thing is that there is a sense of guilt created in you. Okay. Now, the thing about guilt is that without any physical punishment, even sitting remotely, you can apply this and you can hit them inside emotionally. Okay, this is the way guilt is used. Now, what is the impact of guilt in adulthood? As an adult, there are feelings of inferiority, inadequacy. These are feelings that typically come. You get this thing that I don't deserve this. And according to one school of thought, this I don't deserve this is the root of all negative emotions. You're feeling that you're undeserving of being happy. You're undeserving of all the good things in life. Let us look at what is the meaning of this word deserve. I mean, I was completely surprised when I saw this. Okay. This word deserve comes from the Latin word de deservere, which means serve well or zealously. In other words, this word deserve is linked to offering a service. Okay. And not just like that, zealously offering a service. Okay. So if you earn money from a service, you deserve everything you can possibly make. See, we have this notion, no, that, if you are doing, let's say we are doing some service, even let's say we take this possibility that we are in, we are offering this possibility to people. Some of us go through this hesitation that, how can I talk to people? People will think I'm earning money and this and that. Just look at it from this meaning of the word deserve. Okay. You deserve everything you can possibly make. The fact is, you deserve all the happiness that you can legitimately enjoy by doing something worthwhile in the world and by making a contribution. I'm again repeating. You deserve all the happiness you can legitimately enjoy by doing something worthwhile in this world by making a contribution. You deserve all the money you can earn legitimately by helping others and thereby making a profit. So just get this whole perspective shifted, right? Shift your focus from a sense of guilt to a sense of serving other people better. Shift your focus that whatever you're doing, you shift it to serving other people better. You remember we have been telling again and again that we are working as consultants. We are looking at how to make a difference in the life of other people. We are looking at how to help other people, educate other people, and help them understand. That is our focus. Okay. The agenda is not to just keep selling. So now, if we look at it further, the destructive self-criticism, that guilt in adulthood becomes destructive self-criticism. That means you're criticizing yourself. Keep saying negative things about yourself to yourself. Again, look at how many times we are doing this. I always do this. I am always late. I always forget. I am so terrible with money. Do we or do we not say this or similar things to ourselves repeatedly at different points in our life? This is again a fallout of a guilt mentality that we are carrying. You know, what happens because of this is that whatever parental destructive criticism has happened, we are keeping the wheel spinning by repeating it again and again and again. The whole wheel keeps going on. It just doesn't come to an end. Okay. The other next thing that happens with carrying this guilt, whatever guilt is there, is that we get manipulated by guilt. You know, somebody else will tell something and we get manipulated by it. Even by strangers, you can get manipulated by guilt. For example, there's a very nice example that Brian Tracy gave. We may have encountered this, we may not even have realized this. Like, say, in a flight or in a restaurant, no? The flight, the air hostess or the restaurant, the person who's serving, he will, after whatever is done, he will come and say, will that be all? Now, the tone in which they say, will that be all, is like, okay, I'm doing this to you. It's inconvenient for me. So quickly tell me, like, if you want anything else. And we, we say that, oh, yes, 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 that is all. We get into that mode of being defensive. They are using it because it works. Okay. That's the why people are using it. The other thing that happens is that as adults, people who are in this guilt mode, they use guilt and blame on other people. We go into this mode of, you did this, why did you do this, why did you do that, why did this have to happen? We go into this mode of guilt and blame. Okay. And unfortunately, this keeps going on from generation to generation. The next thing that happens because of guilt, the impact of guilt on childhood, and I want you to note this very, very carefully. They use victim language, the language of a victim. We have looked at it earlier. I'm again going to look at it now. The words that we use, I can't, I am too weak, I am too small, I am too incapable, I can't do this. This is the language of a victim. Okay. And this is coming from an old background that, I'm incapable. And the worst victim language of all is, I will try. I want all of you to do one exercise. I hope all of you have got all of you, do you have a pen or do you have something in front of you? If yes, just give me a thumbs up. You have something in front of you. Okay. Okay, great. Now, what I want you to do is, just hear me carefully. I want you to try and lift it. Try and lift. If you have a pen in front of you, just try and lift the pen. Okay. Have you tried? Okay. Just give me a thumbs up if you manage to lift the pen. Give me a thumbs up if you manage to lift the pen. Okay. Who else managed to lift? Very good. Okay. Now, remember I told you I did not ask you to lift the pen. I asked you to try to lift the pen. So now, again, I'm repeating the instruction. Try and lift the pen. Please only try. Try and lift the pen. Are you able to lift it now? If you are not able to lift it, I want you to try very hard. Try hard. I'm really telling you, put all your effort. Try hard to lift the pen. Can you lift the pen? I want you to understand this, that I will try is you're fooling yourself. You're cheating yourself. Okay. You can either do it or you cannot do it. Okay. Either you say I will do it or I will not do it. When you're saying I will try, there's actually no trying. In other words, you are saying that indirectly you're saying I don't want to do it. When you're saying I will try. Okay. In other words, when you say that I will give it a try, you're keeping your back door open for failure. I'm sincerely telling you, shut this back door in your life. Okay. Put an end to this trying. Because every time you use the word trying, you sincerely believe that you're trying, you will get nowhere in life. Okay. Please eliminate I can't, I have to, no compulsions. I will do my best. It's another form of trying. No, we do this. I will do my best, right? I will do my best or I will try. Please eliminate this from your life. If you are serious about growing, if you are really serious about growing, Eliminate, I will try. Why don't you be straight? You say that, look, I don't have the time for this, so I can't do it. I may have liked to look at it. I don't want to do it. Whatever. Just be straight. Why do you want to say I will try? You are fooling not only others, you are fooling yourself also. You will actually believe that you tried, but you couldn't do it. What to do? Okay. Now, how to get rid of this guilt? Let us look at that. Okay. What concrete steps can you take to get rid of the guilt? These are actionable steps. Okay. Please note carefully. And I'm sincerely inviting you, please implement it in your lives. First, eliminate destructive self-criticism. You remember we said that we keep criticizing ourselves. Oh, I am always late. I am, all kinds of things that we tell ourselves that, I am not capable of this. Stop this self-criticism. Do not say anything about yourself that you do not sincerely desire to be true. If you don't desire it to be true, please don't say it to yourself. You're causing harm to yourself. Let's take the case of I am always late. Okay. Please watch this. Okay. Please follow this carefully. We keep telling us, no, telling others, I am always late. Okay. Now, the reason you are late is because you have decided not to be on time. Please note, the reason you are late is because you have decided not to be on time. Why am I saying this? Let's take an example. Suppose you are to gain rupees 10,000 for every appointment of yours that you reach 5 minutes early. Just tell me, will you be late or will you be early? Give me a thumbs up if you feel that you will be early. The point is, for every appointment in your life, going now onward till the end of your life, you will always be early. If I say that you're going to get paid. So the point is, it's a decision that you are taking. Please remember this, that this self-destructive criticism that you're doing is something that you are actually deciding, but you're saying as if you don't have control over it. Second, refuse to get manipulated by guilt. Okay. I'm sure there will be situations in life where you will encounter someone trying to use this guilt on you. Okay. You could say something like politely, you say, excuse me, I'm just curious. Are you trying to make me feel guilty? Okay. And of course, they will say, of course, I'm not. Nobody will admit that they are making you feel guilty. Okay. Now, the next time it happens, just repeat it. Keep saying this. And at some point, they will come down to saying, yes, I want to make you feel guilty. And then you can say, I'm sorry, that's not going to work anymore. Please decide for yourself not to get manipulated by guilt for yourself. Next, refuse to use guilt and blame. Please go beyond this whole thing of pushing this guilt and blame on other people. Choose not to remind others of any mistake that they have made in their past. Okay. All of us are making mistakes. When we grow up, whatever we do, there are mistakes. Without mistakes, there is no growth. Okay. When we are growing up, we will make mistakes and life will go on. Okay. The problem comes only when we are reminding again and again that anyone has made a mistake. Then you make them feel guilty. Okay. This is the most powerful, the most important part of getting yourself rid of your guilt. There is something that Eric Worre calls the law of forgiveness. Please watch this carefully. The law of forgiveness says it is the ability to truly forgive. See, the ability to truly forgive is a real mark of a truly developed superior human being. Okay. If you're not carrying any sense of anger or any ill will, you think of the greatest mystics of our time. They were able to go through life without anger, even in the face of situations where they were threat or they were put to death. The most obvious example is of the Christ. Okay. In the process of getting nailed, okay, they are putting him to death. This is the words that came out of him. His Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Just think of what it takes to be like that. The other example that came to my mind is Mahatma Gandhi. If we were to read his, Autobiography, definitely, if any of you have not read My Experiments with Truth, which is his own autobiography, I will sincerely invite all of you to read it. Okay. And the other very beautiful book that I read, which gave me a huge insight about Mahatma Gandhi and his life, is Freedom at Midnight. Okay. It's a very, very powerful book. It's written in the form of as if it's a novel. Okay. But it's like all the content is all uh, true content, maybe slightly dramatized in terms of the conversations and all that. So this is what Mahatma Gandhi had to say. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Are we or can we choose to become strong, or do we want to continue being weak? Whom must you forgive? First of all, our parents. you know, in the process of our growing up, particularly in younger years, we grew up with certain ideas that parents should have done this or should not have done this. There are various things that we may be carrying in our mind, and many of this maybe they may be based on reality, or many of this can actually be imagination. Okay, right now, forgive them for anything that they ever did or did not do. If you're angry about something or unhappy about something that your parents did or did not do, use this opportunity and please forgive them for it. The probability is that in most cases, they did not even know what they did. There is a nice story that Brian Tracy spoke about, of somebody who was participating in his seminar, one of these seminars. And there was this thing festering him about in his childhood when he was 15 years old, his father told him something. Okay. And he was so angry about that. He was carrying that with him. So after the seminar, he just decided to go back to his father, and he told him that, look, at the age of 15, this is what you did to me, and I'm forgiving you for it. His father, he was like uh, one aggressive, one certain kind of person. So he just looked at him and said that, look, I have not done anything that I feel that I should be. I have not done any single mistake as far as I am concerned. So what are you talking about? So that is when it struck this boy, this person, that whatever he had taken, that his father had, whatever his father had done, which he was carrying in his head, his father did not even look at it as he's done something wrong. So at that moment, it was an aha moment for him. And at that moment, this entire problem just fell away for this person. Okay. So that's the point I'm making. In most cases, they do not even know what they did. Okay. What we are carrying around as a burden. You just think of how many years of this person's life he's carried this burden around, whereas his father did not even know that there is something like this that has happened. Also remember, they did whatever best they could to the best of their understanding and under their circumstances. Whatever best to their understanding, whatever they could, they do. Whatever their upbringing is, whatever their background is, whatever limitations they had, they did whatever best they can. So please choose to forgive them. So what you can say to your parents is, I forgive them. If it is in person, I forgive you for everything and I let it go. What Brian Tracy chooses to use is this: I forgive them for everything. God bless them and I wish them well. Now, the most important thing is, if we can do whatever we are talking about now to people when they are alive, that is the best. Sadhguru, he repeatedly tells this: whatever you want to do for people, please do it when they are alive. There is no point in talking about it after they are dead. Okay. Even if they are not present now with us, even if they have passed away, it is best that from our side we do this process and let it go. Okay. But best to do it if they are alive. Okay. What happens when you forgive? When you forgive your parents? Basically, you become an emotional adult. In other words, you move from a child with a parent looming over you, from that mode, you move to an emotionally mature adult. Okay. That is the change that will happen. Otherwise, we will just stay through our life as emotional cripples. Second, Whom should you forgive? Forgive everyone else who has ever hurt you. Everyone else who has ever hurt you. Now, the interesting thing is this, that this forgiveness is actually for a very selfish reason. The interesting thing is that this forgiveness is not about them at all. It's about you. Just think of it. That, we are all familiar with this whole prison, and, every prison and every prisoner needs a jailer, right? Now, the fact is this, that when you are keeping this person or what this person did in your mental prison, right? You are remaining the jailer of that prison. For your life, you have to continue as a jailer. That means, along with the prisoner, you are also in the jail, right? And you are chained to that other person. So you can make this choice of forgiving everyone who has ever hurt you. Actually, see, what we are trying to do is that in the process of festering it in our mind, playing it back and thinking all negative things, what we are thinking is that I will hurt them by destroying. What you're doing is you're thinking that you will hurt them, but what you're doing is you're destroying your own emotional life by thinking about it again and again. They are not the person who are getting hurt. You are the person who's getting hurt. It's like, you say that I will hurt somebody else by punching myself in the face till I bleed. This is what we are doing. Last week we spoke about Namakaname scheme. We causing hurt to ourselves. We are not realizing it, but this is what we are doing it to ourselves. So use this opportunity and forgive. Your agenda is to get free. That is your agenda. You want to be free of the whole thing. And the way to get free is to forgive everyone in the past. It could be relationships, it could be businesses, it could be just about anything. Just clean up the deck. Unless you are willing to do this, you will still stay stuck. Next, forgive yourself for everything. For every cruel, senseless, brainless, stupid, unkind, wicked, ignorant thing that you have ever done, forgive yourself. It is time to let it go. Okay. Clinging to the negative experiences in your past is a form of weakness that keeps you away from reality. One. Second, it is an emotional insincerity. And it is a refusal to grow up and just get on with life. Okay. It is, we keep thinking that it is the mark of a superior person feeling guilty for the mistakes you made. No, it is not. You are just clinging to your negative experiences, which is a form of weakness. Okay. And remember that nobody is perfect. And so also, we are also not perfect. So please forgive yourself for whatever you think you may have done. Forgive yourself for everything. See, the person who made those mistakes in the past, okay, was you at that point in time. Can you look back? Whatever incident that you are refusing to forgive yourself about was you at that point in time. It is not the person that you are today. Remember this. Now, today as a person, would you do those silly things? You may not do it. So, what at that point in time, to the best of your understanding, at that time you did certain things and it's fine. Just get on with life. Don't beat yourself up for what happened then. That was then and this is now. Remember. Wisdom comes from making mistakes. Okay. So, whatever mistakes we may have made, whichever way it may have been, mistakes others have made, wisdom is, you make the mistake. Only thing you can do with any past experience, whether it is something that you have done or whether somebody else has done, the only thing that you can do with any past experience is see what you can learn that will make you a better person today. It's like, keep the wheat and just let go of the chaff. It's unnecessary. Don't keep carrying this baggage around. Never get upset about any past event because you cannot change the past. There is this beautiful quote. It's apparently from some Sanskrit thing. The quote goes like this. It is somebody, pleading to the Lord. He says, Lord, give me the wisdom. Sorry. Give me the strength to accept the things I cannot change. And No, I'm sorry, I'm not getting it right. The first thing is, uh, give me the ability to accept things that I cannot change. Okay. And the strength to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay. So remember, you cannot change your past. Whatever you may do, you cannot change your past. The wisest thing is to just make peace with it, forgive, and let it go. Just say, I forgive completely. God bless them. I wish them well. Just let it go. Okay. If you have done something to hurt somebody else, you have to go and apologize to them, seek forgiveness from them. Please do that also. Okay. Please go and apologize. If it's not something that you can go and meet in person, maybe over a phone call, not over a phone call, write a letter. Okay. Even if you cannot meet them. And if necessary, make recompense. If there is any, there is so much of damage and there is some other thing that has to be done, please do it and close it. After you have done it, just let it grow and be free. So, I want to share with you a very, I found it very moving, a story that, not a story, it's a true thing, that one of the people who participated in Brian Tracy's seminar, he, on a particular day, this whole same discussion of forgiveness happened. And the next day, that person came back and he was so beaming. And, before that, there was this whole anger, frustrating, and all that. And the next day, he was so much like, full of joy and beaming and all that. So then Brian Tracy asked him what happened. So this is what he had to say. That person, he had set up a business with his best friend, okay, years ago. And it was a very fantastic business. The business was doing well. Okay. He had got married and he had children. Okay. And 4 years ago, one day he goes up to his office and he suddenly discovers in office that this friend of his has cleaned up everything as far as the business is concerned, all the money, everything. And he has cleaned it up in such a way, cleaned up and left. Okay. That is, he's collected everything and gone away with all the money, with everything, in a way that the entire implication is on this person. It's as if this person has authorized that entire thing to happen. The company is now at the threshold of bankruptcy. Everything has gone away. All the money, everything has been systematically and thoroughly done. Okay. And then he goes home and he discovers that his wife has left with this friend of his. Okay. That means there has been whatever affair going on, and both of them have planned this. Okay. And they have executed it so thoroughly that now he's stuck with this complete mess. He's stuck with the children. Okay. With his wife gone away. It's like, they have just stabbed him in the back and gone away. Okay. Now, if we just logically, if we just think, many of us, what we will feel is he's so justified in his anger, right? What that person did is, after the session, he wrote a letter to both of them. Okay. He wrote this whole thing. In fact, there is a beautiful step-by-step process that Brian Tracy has. If any of you are interested in it, please separately tell me. I will find that excerpt of that audio and I will send it to you. So he wrote out this letter to his best friend and his wife, who is no longer his wife, and forgiving them for everything that they did. He listed out all these things you did. I'm forgiving you for it. And then he sealed the letter and he put it to the post box. And he says that the moment he dropped it into the post box, there was freedom after that. Okay. So I'm inviting you to take this step today. List 3 people in your life that you're still angry with. Choose this opportunity to forgive them completely. And also, what one action, please write down, what one action are you going to take based on whatever you have learned today? Remember that this is the opportunity we are talking about to, you remember we spoke about this fantastic Mercedes car with the wheels locked? That one wheel is locked. This is the opportunity to unlock that one brake. Okay. I'm inviting you to unlock this brake. The moment you unlock this brake, this car will fly. That's the invitation for you. Thank you very much.